this week's top stories in city events and city news. An unidentified man held multiple officers up at gunpoint outside LSPD this week. The man's only request to police was to release another man who was taken into custody earlier that day. The man that held the gun to police was never caught, but the man who was released due to the incident returned to the station later to give himself up. In other news, Commissioner Mason and Assistant Attorney General Blue were spotted outside the hospital this week practicing their fight night skills. The winner took home a single taco, and here's what that taco champion had to say.
Well, it was a very fair fight between us, but I feel very tough and strong now that I beat the commissioner. I feel like there's a calling for me, out there,
An officer blinded many citizens at LS Customs this week when the officer in question took off his hat to get his head buffed by an LS employee. Witnesses said that they never saw such a glare. No citizen that witnessed the event needed medical treatment for the temporary sight issues, but there is no word if anyone at the solar eclipse is pressing charges. A vehicle pursuit took place this week. When a local citizen was pulled over due to speeding and suspicious activity, the man who briefly pulled over took off again in his vehicle. The officers chased the man in the slow orange car throughout the city and were finally able to corner the man in a canal inside the city. The man was found to have many legal items on his person when he was detained and taken into custody after he was treated. Those items were confiscated and the man was charged for the crimes. Here's what one officer who was involved in the chase had to say to the public.
Bystanders that seem to be catching themselves in bad situations because they're hanging out in this area, so stay safe, try to avoid those areas, especially at night if you can.
And in our final story tonight, an off-duty police officer was kidnapped from a local bar last night in the city. The officer said he was taken to a secondary location where he was threatened and robbed. When he was finally able to escape, he alerted officers on duty and began to work the case. The event ended in a massive shootout near this gas station in Mirror Park, where two of the responding officers were shot multiple times, as well as a suspect. Here's what the main officer who was originally kidnapped had to say about the events that took place that night.
Then they decided to take me over to another place called the Magic Pussycat, where they held me there and they robbed me. After that, I decided to go clock on, get this story up to the higher-ups that were clocked on. They told me to meet them at this location and to talk about what had happened. I went. It turned out to be an ambush. I had 3 officers and 3 suspects that we had to collect and capture and kill. We didn't kill any, but one did die, sadly, from our hands. My 2 officers got downed within the first few minutes there. I was the last man standing, and I got 1v2 situation, and I was able to shoot them both down. That's how this ended. I had to be treated, too, for several gunshot wounds. I barely made it out alive that day.
The suspects involved in the case were all injured and treated, but one of the suspects ended up passing away due to his injuries. The other 2 suspects were charged, and there's no word how long their sentencing was for their crimes. I'm Baxter Babe, and that was this week's top stories. Thank you for watching, and stay safe out there.